As I've said before, these cars are all about the details, and there's plenty of them to look for in these interiors. Let's start with the seats. Leather seats were a popular option on these cars, but the standard issue was a very durable and good-looking vinyl material called MB Tex. These seats here that I'm showing you may look like leather, but they're actually MB Tex. And because of that, a lot of people advertising their cars for sale will claim that their car is optioned with leather, simply because they really do think that it is. Real leather seats look different and usually show a lot more wear, or what you may call character. They look lived in, creased, baggy, while MB Tex is usually tighter and more uniform looking. Here's another shot of leather seats. These are from a 250 SL, right before they changed the seat design to incorporate headrests. Another reason why the early cars looked a little more sporting and the 280 SLs looked a little more refined. The leather option cars also had leather door panels and leather dashboard coverings. So here's a look at a leather covered door panel. And here's an MB Tex one, looking a lot tighter and showing less wear. Now back to a leather one. This one from the 250 SL, and you'll notice that the door hardware design was different. And this one has a hard door pocket, which Mercedes had to change in late 1967 because of DOT regulations. Seatbelts were available as an option in Mercedes cars beginning in 1958 from various suppliers. In 1969, Kangol became the main supplier to Mercedes, and you'll find these magnetic clasp design buckles in the 280 SL, which are actually a really nice simple design that most passengers find irritating and confusing. And while we're looking at these, what do you think that seat material is made from? It looks like leather, but it's almost too uniform. You're right, it's MB Tex. The carpeting in the 280 SLs was a synthetic loop weave, as shown here. It was available in a variety of nice-looking colors, and I've been lucky enough to have quite a few of these cars that still had their original carpet. The way you can tell is by the presence of the rubber grommet that you see surrounding the shifter assembly. This grommet was molded into the carpet, even on the manual shift cars, and sadly is no longer available. So what you're most likely going to find with replacement carpet is this kind of vinyl binding, which is just kind of the way it is, unless you get really lucky and find a car with original carpet. What you don't want to find is any type of short pile carpet, which was never meant for these cars. These are really nicely put together interiors, and the carpet design plays a big role in that. Another feature you can find on cars with original carpet is this heel pad. And if you look really closely, the original ones will have a Mercedes part number debossed into the material at the base of the accelerator pedal. It's not uncommon to see these heel pads starting to break up and wear away, though, like this one. Now, the early cars up to 1968 used a completely different material and design. This is known as square weave carpet, and it's actually woven from coarse wool. In my opinion, this is another interesting aspect of the early cars, and definitely seems more German than American in appearance. These early cars also came with full-length integrated rubber floor mats, as well as a protective pad to the right of the gas pedal like you see in the photo. You can still order either style from a variety of suppliers. This picture shows the replacement square weave material, pretty similar to the original, but missing the integrated pad. One thing you'll notice in this picture that they didn't leave out, though, are the under dash panels. These are very rarely still seen on SLs because if you ever needed to get up under the dash to replace bulbs or service anything, they definitely got in the way. These are foam-backed pieces, and the foam had a tendency to break down over time and fall onto your shoes, so that usually ended up being strike two. They are reproducing these panels, though, so if you gotta have them, they are available, and the person who restored this car decided to include them, so we're gonna give them originality points for that. But if you really want to get picky, the glove box is a good place to start. First, check to see if the rubber bump stops are in place. Here it looks like one is missing. Below that is a thin aluminum grommet that surrounds the opening for the hinge arm, which is connected to a unique spring mechanism that helps the glove box stay in the open and closed position. This little metal grommet is fairly fragile, so if you see it in good shape like this one, it's a plus. Also found inside the glove box are the handle levers to remove the soft top and hard top pins that fit into the windshield header. The early cars had built-in handles on the top, but they soon became a separate item and were stored in this nice little pouch. Make sure that you have these parts, as correct replacements are very expensive. Because of that, it's common to find the longer, non-chromed version from the later SLs of the 70s and 80s in their place. They work the same, but aren't as nice as having the originals. Now, one area that you absolutely have to be picky about are the heater levers. The one on the top left controls fresh air intake, the one on the top right is for air direction, the bottom two are for left and right heat, and the knob on the right controls the fan. You definitely need to make sure that all levers operate freely and that the fan works. There's an old saying that Mercedes started with the heater and then built an entire car around it. The location of the heater core is so buried underneath the dash that basically everything has to be taken off to get access to it. The four cables that the levers control need to be lubricated occasionally, especially if they don't see much use. The levers themselves will become brittle with age, so when combined with stiff cables, they have a tendency to snap right off in your hand. Replacements are available, but it's not a fun job to get in there. And if the valve to the heater core is where the problem lies, well, good luck. There's an access hole in the firewall to get to that valve, but if you need to get access to any other part of the heater core, you're really in for a lot of work. So make sure that you have heat and make sure that the levers move freely.